Hi, I'm Josh. Welcome back to my channel and to my brand new recording corner, I suppose. Today I'm going to be doing the book haul, my first book haul of 2020. So let's get to it. I really hope this video is usable. This is my first time being in this spot. The bookshelves are slightly closer to my ceiling light. I'm in a basement, so my options are a lot smaller when it comes to good lighting. I'm also right by the window, which could just make me look brighter, or it may just completely flood this area of the screen, and it's hard to see until after it's recorded, but it seems fine while I'm recording, so hopefully it looks good. Now, if you recall, or if you were here last year, at the end of last year, you'll know that I have a new goal, not to buy any new books this year, or not to buy any new books to add to my TBR this year. There were several caveats to that. One, I'll let myself buy a book I've already read. Two, I have a series of pre-orders that I've made last year, before this year, that are going to be coming in this year, and I'm still counting that as last year buying. So I think it is working because I haven't bought any new books. Don't get me wrong, it's been really hard. I just saw one book that I really want from my local bookstore they just got in, and I'm not going to buy it, even though it's a good book, and I don't think it's going to be there very long, but I have 500 books here I need to read, so it's fine. I don't need them. But these books are a combination of pre-orders, just a couple pre-orders, as well as books that I ordered in December that I just now got here. So keep that in mind. It's probably the biggest one of the year, hopefully. The first book I bought last year was a book that doesn't really change my number of my TBR because I already own it here. This is the book that I had already owned, which is the Tell of Genji by Murasaki Shikibu, which is essentially a classic Japanese story told or written by a noble Japanese woman from, I want to say, before 1000, like in the years of the hundreds. I don't remember when it was published. Anyways, but what I didn't realize when I bought this, if you look closely, you would see somewhere here, translated and abridged. And I was sad because I don't want to read an abridged book, even if it is a classic that may end up being huge. So I decided last month, before the year is out, to replace it with a full copy, which is the Tell of Genji, this time edited by Dennis Washburn, and this is the entire collection. Do not be deceived by this thickness. It's in fact probably twice as thick as it may appear. The text is extremely small, and the audio is split into 2 volumes. It's essentially the length of 2 Stormlight Archive books from Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive series. Will I read this in one sitting? Like, will I read this in one go? Or will I read it at all? We will see. I am hoping to get to this year, but I knew when I was planning to add this to my TBR that I wanted the full-fledged edition, so I did. I got it. Like, it's big, it's beautiful, it's floppy, but it's also extremely intimidating because it's a classic. I mean, it's also something that's really intriguing, though, as a story that is told by a noble Japanese woman from a period of time that I have never read from. It's gonna be the oldest book I've ever read, I think. Next is a book that I actually ordered a while back from a local bookstore in Toronto, and that is Fatal Invention: How Science, Politics, and Big Business Recreate Race in the 21st Century. And this book is a new anti-racist book that I purchased with the subtitle really telling you what it's about. I am intrigued. First off, I like the copy. It's not very floppy, but it's a nice firm paperback, which I love. A good, reliable, durable paperback. I love getting an anti-racist book that's from a science perspective, particularly one that I believe is written by a black woman scientist. Maybe a social scientist, but still a scientist. So this is something I'm eager to get to. And the author is Dorothy Roberts. Next, I was going on a binge of buying Roxane Gay's books, and I noticed she had this new collection of Audre Lorde that she edited coming out, I think, in last December, and so I bought it. And I didn't really look into what was in it because I've already read Audre Lorde's Sister Outsider collection, and I honestly, a lot of these short stories a lot of these essays that are in here are in that collection. That said, half of this is also poetry, and poetry isn't something I traditionally read, but I think owning this will motivate me to do that. And I wanted to own Roxane Gay's entire collection, so is it worth it? I'm not sure. Hopefully I'll get enough out of the poetry, even though it's not something I traditionally read. And I also think rereading these essays that I read in Sister Outsider would be beneficial. Sister Outsider was my anti-racist read of December. I really liked reading it. It was very informative information. It was just a lot to take in, and I think that kind of information bears repeating. Okay, continuing the Roxane Gay purchases, we have an Untamed State. I think this is her first ever novel. I don't know what this is about. I just know that it is a novel. She is obviously known largely for her nonfiction works, but I wanted to make sure I had her fiction works to dive into. I have her other one as well. The next one is one that I actually got originally as an e-arc, and I was kind of getting frustrated trying to read this graphic novel, The Sacrifice of Darkness, in a NetGalley form because those PDFs, they are one page at a time, and it's really hard to read comics that are split over across 2 pages, even if it's just some of them. So I figured, I knew I was pre-ordering this, so why not just wait till I got it to read it. So I'm actually planning on reading it in February. One thing I will say is that while I love the cover and I love the general artwork, I don't love the coloration. It's very, I don't know what you call this. It's like it shifts in tones to like really set the mood, but I like a more vibrant color, like what you see with LaGuardia. I read this last year, and this is the example of like what I love is a nice, beautiful, vibrant art. Like look at that gorgeous artwork. It's so beautiful. And this one is edited by, the colorist in this one is James Delvin. The colorist in this one, who clearly just chose a different approach, which is fine. I mean, it's their work. James Venner, the actual artist of this, is illustrated by Rebecca Kirby. It's not something I usually talk about, but in Jerry from Onyx Pages has made a point to talk about it, and she makes some great points. I mean, she's right that we need to talk about it, and I just don't think about it. So those are what's in this. The actual thing about this is about a young girl whose father, who is essentially like a union worker, who is unhappy with his life and his position, and so he flies his plane into the sun, and it kills the sun, it puts him in the darkness. Now obviously there's some abstract science fiction going on here. I don't entirely understand where it's going from the little bit that I did start to read, and I also don't know quite what the message is yet, but I do think it's supposed to be an emotional conversation we're having. Those are all my Roxane Gay ones. But continuing on with Black authors, we have Carmen Garrett, Full Disclosure. This is a YA novel, something I don't traditionally read, and I ordered this a while back. I don't remember why. I think I had heard about Carmen Garrett, and I thought, why not support her and give her book a try. Continuing on with Black authors, we have Octavia E. Butler's Pattern Master from the Patternist series. And this is, of course, the 4th book in that series. Where do I have it? Sorry, I moved my shelves around, so I'm confused. But I have the first 3, now I have this one. This one is intriguing because it has one of our main characters, or has a character rather, inside of another character, and I'm not quite sure what that messaging is supposed to be, because every book has this sort of outline and it tends to say something about the story, and I'm extremely intrigued to see what is going on in this book. Now, moving on to more books, I bought last year the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I got the idea, why don't I read the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy this year? And so that is a plan of mine. I think I mentioned it in my 21 backlist books to read in 2021, and that is The Silmarillion and The Hobbit. Oops. I do like these because they're consistent. They're a little bit smaller than the actual large collection copy I have, Lord of the Rings, but it's fine. I think it'll go fine next to it. I have decided I probably won't read The Silmarillion anytime soon. I'm already nervous when it comes to Lord of the Rings, which I've heard can be kind of dense as far as the writing style goes. But The Hobbit, I think, will hopefully be easy enough to read. And so those are 2 that I got, to nice condition that I got from Book Depository. Now, another book that I got from a local bookstore is going to be Zhen Chao's The Order of Pure Moon Reflected in Water. This is a fantasy novella. That's all I really know about it. Now, I've heard great things about it. I think it might have even been a Nebula Award winner. If not, it was definitely nominated, which is one of the big reasons why I bought it. I'm becoming to realize that some of the best books you can read are novellas. Like the longer than short stories were slightly more satisfying, while being long enough to get you really invested. And so I'm eager to get to this one. The sad thing about this, though, is I don't think I bought book 2. So when I do get to it, it's going to be a while before I get to book 2, probably. Next, we have... I'm missing one here. Next, we have a book that I've already read, Across the Greengrass Fields by Shauna McGuire, book 6 of the Wayward Children series. This is a story about a new character in the Wayward Children series who is intersex, and she goes to a world of horses and a range of mythological horses. I talk about this in one of my Friday reads that I'll link to that I did earlier this month, where I talked all about rereading the entire series. And in fact, this one, I actually read this one twice. I enjoyed it, but I will say it's not my favorite of the series. Another book that I've already started reading, that I've talked about already on this channel, and that is Gutter Child by Jill Richardson. This is a dystopian novel about a world where we have basically this class system, very similar to what we've seen in the real world at certain times. We have sort of indentured servitude going on here, where children are forced to take on the debt of their ancestors who were given debt unfairly anyways. It has commentary around race, but also indigenous issues all in here. And on top of all that, it's it's beautiful writing. I'm very satisfied, very happy to be able to connect with this book so strongly, and I'm only like 75 pages into it. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm working on finishing it for the month it's out. And so far, I can highly recommend this, even though I haven't finished it yet. I have a feeling it's going to be 5 stars, even just this short into the book. Jill Richardson is also Canadian, and she is the founder of the Fold movement, which I want to say is Festival of Literature Diversely. Something about motivating people to read diversely in their literature, from queerness to black authors to indigenous authors. Finally, I have the two big books of Yuval Noah Harari, and that is, the author is, I believe, is from Israel, and the two books are Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, and Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow, which I'm not sure what this was about. I feel like the title says what this is about, and maybe this is just about what's to come. I remember reading into them when I first ordered them, and I was really intrigued. Obviously, he has gotten a lot of praise, at least in the nonfiction community. So I'm intrigued, even though I don't remember what they're about. I remember being very excited to read these, even if I don't remember why. I also think you might be queer, which nice to get more queer rep. And those are all the books I have to haul for you this month. 14 books, which is a lot considering I told myself I wouldn't buy any books. But I promise that number should be going down. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you'll be reading any of these, or if you have already, let me know what to expect. And as always, I hope you all have a great day and stay safe. Goodbye.